Now for a review of what's making the headlines in the papers this morning, let's bring in Arise analyst Constance Ikoko. Good morning, Constance.
Wonderful morning to you, Yolanda. You're so white today. And Charles, morning in blue.
I'm so dark today.
You are so dark today. Oh, we're twinning.
Constance.
I'm also in blue, dark blue. And Chuk Sakuna, Executive Director of Authority Newspaper, is joining us today. It's good to have you inside the studio. I hope you're delighted to be here.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Okay, wonderful. Welcome, everyone. Hello there and welcome to the program. We begin with this day newspaper. Oil marketers threaten strike, give FG 7 days to offset 100 billion naira debt. So many depots in the north are already grounded over mounting indebtedness. The papers are reporting a looming petrol scarcity nationwide due to this. The 100 billion naira owed marketers is a bridging claim supposed to be paid by the federal government a year after the demand was made. They said the management of the Nigeria Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority has ignored them. Chuks, this is not looking good at all. And it's happening even after the NMPDRA had promised to offset this debt.
Yes, exactly. This is not the time. We have thought that the era of threats to strikes and strikes, by petroleum workers, petroleum dealers, was history. It's sad that a full year is gone, and they're claiming that the federal government owes over 100 billion naira, and that in the next 1 week, they'll be compelled by circumstances beyond their control to actually withdraw the services. And, of course, we all know that's going to spell petroleum scarcity for Nigeria at this very, very critical time of our national life.
And nobody wants to see that. So we'll be following that. Well, hopefully this is cleared. It's a short time, 7 days, but hopefully this is cleared. There's also another story in these days, if we can pull that up again. This is talking about politics strictly. Here, El-Rufai, Tinubu, not National Assembly, rejected my nomination as minister. He hints he may leave the APC, says Governor Basani Nuhu Ribadu. No longer his friends. I wonder who cares about that. He alleges Ribadu trying to eliminate all opposition to his 2031 presidential ambition. Ribadu responds that he never discussed running for president in 2031, that he's focused on his job at the moment. I mean, Chuks, do you think the media is playing into the hands of those politicians? It's all about publicity for their presidential ambitions. It seems Tinubu rejected his nomination as minister. So what? Of course, he knew that he was interested in running for president, so that might be detrimental in his government.
Yes, exactly. This is not the first. Ironically, it's still the same station that gave him that media oxygen to breathe, to actually, vent his frustrations, if you allow me to use that word. It's no secret that since 2007, Nasir El-Rufai, who was minister under Obasanjo, has not seen presidential ambition. He appears to be a very bitter man. From that interview, you can read the tone of his interview. He's very bitter. But one thing I would love to disagree is the claim that President Tinubu, not the National Assembly, stopped him. And that I don't think that's correct. Even when President Buhari was in power and Tinubu was just an aspirant, if you recall, he dared President Buhari to stop his presidential ambition. Tinubu is not somebody he's not a coward, because what El-Rufai said was like Tinubu needed the National Assembly to actually stop him.
Yes.
As an aspirant, Tinubu dared President Buhari that that whatever he did, that he was going to contest and that he was going to win. And
he got what he wanted.
Yes. So I pretty doubt if after becoming President Tinubu would be afraid to look El-Rufai in the face and say, "I don't want you." And if you look at it, El-Rufai is not the first person to be rejected by the Senate. Son of former governor of Old Ondo State, Michael Ajashin, he was rejected by the Senate. EFCC nominee at the time, chairman nominee, Malam Ibrahim Magu, was rejected by the Senate, and heavens did not fall. So I wonder why El-Rufai is still bitter about his rejection by the Senate?
Well, he's a pretty controversial man. Well, he's brilliant in many ways, but in terms of his profile in Nigeria, you either like him or hate him. That's what it's been. But yeah, I'm sure there will be more coming from that angle in the near future. Let's look at the Punch newspaper. Miranda may step down as Akonde panel shortlist 7. Panel recommends Obasa's resignation. Akonde Oshoba to brief Tinubu on report. This may be heartbreaking for many, but indications are that the first Lagos State Speaker, Mojisola Meranda, may bow to pressure to leave office for another lawmaker. Recall that the Speaker, Mudashiru Obasa, was impeached in January, and since then there has been no peace in the Lagos State House of Assembly due to the fact that the powers that be were taken unawares by that impeachment. Charles, you can come in here. Serious power play going on in Lagos, and again, those that call the shots want Miranda out of the way.
Is there any guarantee that bringing in another speaker outside of Miranda and Obasa would guarantee peace for the Lagos State House of Assembly? It does appear that Obasa is casting a very long shadow on that Lagos State legislature, and Mojisola Miranda has not been a happy woman ever since she was appointed as speaker, because it's been one controversy to the other, and always it's Obasa just always around the corner. So, well, it appears that they want to break that deadlock, the Obasa versus Miranda deadlock, but then bringing in another candidate to run the affairs of the Lagos State House of Assembly. I think nothing short of removing both Miranda and Obasa completely from the Lagos State House of Assembly would solve that problem, because whether, as long as the two are there, or as long as Obasa is still a member of the Lagos State House of Assembly, his presence will definitely have an effect. So, are they trying to clip his wings? Maybe.
No, indications are that this is bigger than Obasa. Actually, it has nothing to do with Obasa. Because from the word from the street is that, choosing had also come in here, the word from the street is that, the power brokers in Lagos were unaware that Obasa was going to be impeached. So they want their own person, and that person is not Miranda. Choose, what else are you hearing? That's what I am hearing.
I think the bottom line is that there's this silent movement in Lagos, for the owners of Lagos, to actually take back their state. If you know, I don't know if you know that Obasa is said to be from Ogun State.
But a lot of the politicians in Lagos are actually from other states in the southwest.
No, but then I think the pro Miranda.
No, Miranda is from Lagos.
No, she is. That's what I'm saying. To replace Obasa with a true son, daughter of the soil. But then in doing that, they miscalculated, because Miranda appears to, it's from the same senatorial district as the governor. So zoning does not favor her. That's why they ran into a storm, a political zoning storm. And that's why they're looking at looking for somebody outside of the central senatorial zone, where the governor and Miranda both hail from.
Oh, all right. I mean, Yolanda, I don't know if you want to chip in as a woman.
I plead the fifth on this one.
Okay.
Lagos state politics is so complicated.
Absolutely.
Really complicated.
And
it's the largest economy in West
Not just
Africa,
Lagos politics, but I think Nigeria, the political scene is quite complex. Yeah. And for you to be able to chip in, you have to have the right knowledge, the right history, and the stories behind the stories. So on this one, I'm part of the audience.
Okay. Let's look at The Guardian. Let's get The Guardian. Prison decongestion. 53,225 pretrial detainees languish in jail despite push to pardon politicians. Only 34%, or 23,841, have been convicted and serving jail terms. At 1,125 naira per inmate daily, FG to spend 21.8 billion naira to feed pretrial inmates in 2025. Those awaiting trial according to state are Port Harcourt, 1,810. We have Enugu, 2,290. Kuje, 768. Suleja, 190. Lagos, 8,629. Such a scandalous report. The failures of the criminal justice system, the Nigerian Correctional Service has questions to answer, the Nigerian Police, the Ministry of Interior, and whoever else is in charge. This is unacceptable to many folks.
Yeah, exactly. There was a time when the chief judge of the FCT went on a tour of the prisons in Abu, in the FCT, and he was shocked at what he found. You know, in fact, there was an inmate that when he asked what the offense was, the policeman said that, or the prison official said that there was an intention to commit theft. So, and you know, the chief judge was bemused. You know, he was bewildered. That intention to commit has become a crime. You know, what is there a science to actually read the mind of man? You know, so you say that you're a psychologist, that somebody intends to commit a crime, and for that is in prison. I know that there was a time that there was this, I don't know if it's still there, the prisons decongestion program run by the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation. At the time, it became very controversial, became, you know, fraud and what have you. People were collecting money to actually put their own persons, you know, those who had inmates there, they'll pay to the committee to have their own persons released. But bottom line is that the criminal justice system, you know, is in dire straits.
It's slow, yeah.
And it's in need of urgent reforms.
I'd like to jump in there, Chooks, if you don't mind. It's not just what's happening in the prisons, but I believe also the judicial system is weighed down tremendously. I was very shocked to learn that judges are taking report longhand, and oftentimes they are having injuries to their wrist, injury to their hand, because they are constantly writing, they're constantly penning down everything that's going on. And I said, wow, in 2025, do we not have the right technology to, you know, do things properly, like more civilized crimes, for lack of a better word? So I think it's a reoccurring thing in different aspects. So it's not just the prisons, it's overcrowding, there's no judicial guarantees, it's a lot. So they have to be taken a step at a time, and I'm not too sure if that's going to happen anytime soon, to be sincere.
Big question mark. Okay, let's also look at another story in The Guardian quickly. An unsettling one: drug abuse, 1 million of Northwest, 3 million addicts in Kano. This information was provided by the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency. It says this is a public health crisis. Also, 14.3 million Nigerians aged 14 to 64 use psychoactive substances. The northwest region of Kaduna, Katsina, Kano, Jigawa, Kebbi, Zamfara, and Sokoto have been severely affected, with approximately 3 million people using drugs. Charles, the good thing though is that this report is out, and we are hearing that some are receiving counseling and rehabilitation, but this is an issue.
It's a very big issue indeed. I've been over there in the north, particularly Kano and Kaduna, and it's amazing the amount of drugs being abused over there, particularly tramadol. And that's why, you know, most of the time the federal drug agencies and the police are always seizing consignments of that particular drug. And then, of course, there are different kinds of cocktails that, you know, they kind of fabricate on their own. Different types of drugs, different types of substances. Yes, the report is out here, but I just hope that we have the correct systems in place to deal with the situation, because the sheer numbers of young people, not just young people, even older ones too, abusing drugs in the far northern parts of the country is absolutely mind-blowing. So does government actually have the capacity to deal with the numbers of, you know, the drug abusers in that part of the country? That's the question that has to be answered first.
Charles, don't forget the availability of the drugs. I mean, we have things like tramadol that you can get over the counter. Codeine is so easy to attain. And once you start experimenting with those and mixing things, that's when you have these sorts of issues. So maybe that needs to be controlled as well. Why are these drugs so readily available? Drugs that are opioids and so dangerous to have on the market that way. I think there needs to be some regulations around that.
There are some that you don't even get from the market. Something like, you know, heating up rubber and then sniffing, you know, glue.
Very true. Very true.
I mean, these are the things that you don't get in the pharmacies at
cheap
home.
high, yes.
Some even sniff methane gas, you know, from sewage systems.
Yes.
It's that bad.
We have to move on. Let's look at Daily Independent. Tinubu eyes national census after 19-year deadlock, plans committee. President Bola Tinubu says he's committed to accurate data and reliable figures, hence the need for a census. Plans already in place to make this happen, according to this article. It's about time, isn't it? I mean, the last census was in November 2006, but you also want, you know, a census that is reliable and trustworthy. Absolutely. Because it's always been controversial in Nigeria. Quickly, some other papers. Yeah. Daily Sun. Fuel scarcity looms. We've seen that with the report in this day. But there's also January 1966 military strike, not Igbo coup, according to IBB. We also saw this in some papers yesterday. But, you know, this is not new. One of the coup plotters, Ademola Ademoyega, you know, said in his book, Why Was Struck, that it was not an Igbo coup. But you have this false narrative that has continued in Nigeria, used heavily against Igbo people. I think it's time to put it to rest. It was not an Igbo coup. Igbos did not gather anywhere to conspire to kill anybody. This was military people. And they've paid dearly for this with their lives and property. So hopefully this will stop. Let's look at the international headlines. Port charges to be reduced, taxes, duties, levies targeted. This is aimed at creating a favorable business environment and make the country's ports an attractive destination that will draw businesses from across the West Africa sub-region. Yolanda, I'm sure Nigerian businesses are listening to this. Every other government is trying to drive business to their country. And the government in Nigeria is increasing taxes, levies, all sorts of charges.
Not just listening. I think many small businesses and larger ones as well have been waiting on this because the burden is too much. When you look at what is happening in the different economies in the region, it's more than pertinent that we have this go on. And these port charges, I just wish they would have released a date for it, so that people can look forward to these changes. And speaking of taxes, Charles, remember earlier on we were talking about the reluctancy of
Nigerians to pay taxes, according to the Senate president.
Yes. Well, that's another story altogether.
That's another story. I also saw that in one of the papers. We said, I said Nigerians don't pay up to 30% of taxes, but they want infrastructure and all of that. Anyway, that's a long story.
But nobody likes to pay taxes unless
even abroad.
Yes.
Even abroad.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, let's look at the Citizen newspaper. It's our military Mickey Mouse, South African National Defense Force general, quoted as accusing the South African government of playing Big Brother in Africa while failing to secure its own borders. Talk about aging equipment, poor funds, which is affecting defense capabilities. And then onto the Times this morning. Trump invites Zelensky to secure peace in weeks. President says Putin will accept role for European troops. An interesting photo of French President Emmanuel Macron and President Trump at the Oval Office on that front page. I don't know what's going on, a bromance maybe, but Yolanda. Anyway, finally, Volodymyr Zelensky said to meet Trump, and it looks like a peace deal might just happen.
I don't like this. I sincerely don't like this. Yes, it might just happen. And to throw in that picture there of Trump and Macron is a little bit sinister, you know, because we've been holding the reports almost on a daily basis for the past couple of weeks. And yesterday we mentioned how the pressure is on for Ukraine to concede. And at this point, you know, I believe Macron had said something earlier as well, speaking very passionately about the tariffs that are being held on Europe. And so now to see him with Trump like this, all this buddy-buddy, where did this come from?
Well, Macron actually told Trump some very serious home truths.
Yes.
He said you can't fight Europe and China
at the same time. Yes.
And then, of course, I think he now used that as leverage to say Europe has an interest in Ukraine, and you have to try to cooperate with Europe, because you make Europe an enemy, you have two problems to handle.
Very true.
All right.
Yes.
A final story today, Financial Times. Apple joins race to win Trump's favor with $500 billion plan for 28,000 U.S. jobs. The new staff will be hired in the U.S. over the next 4 years, focusing on research, development, software development, AI, and machine learning. It also plans to expand chip and server manufacturing in the U.S. and skills development for students and workers across the country. Chooks, this is a significant move due to the fact that President Trump is aggressively pushing to move back manufacturing jobs to the U.S. Yes. So you have to give it to him. Yeah, it looks like he's winning.
Yes, even though 5,000 jobs, each year for the next 4 years appears a drop in the ocean. If you look at the U.S. economy, the largest economy in the world, and considering Trump's plans to roll back the job losses that people have suffered in the U.S., as a result of his recent policies. But then, it's interesting, it shows how a country can actually stimulate, investment and job creation. And I think countries like Nigeria, can learn lessons from what Donald Trump is doing in the U.S. to see how we can also improve our economy to make big companies, create jobs for our citizens.
I mean, it used to be that these companies were going abroad because it was cheaper labor costs, for them. But the U.S. was also losing jobs. And so now he's trying to turn that around. Well, we're out of time. So Chooks Akun, Executive Director of Authority Newspaper.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being with us today.
And thank you so much, Dr. Constance, for driving the newspaper review for today too. And that's all we have time for here on Daybreak. I'm Charles Eruka. It's goodbye from me.
And I'm Yolanda Robert. Please do keep it here on Arise News. The morning show is next. Goodbye.